personal data of customers, as consumers, sorry. So, what is the GDPR? He said, don't worry, it's only marketers collecting our data for they can create more relevant advertising for us. The General Data Protection Regulation is a sweeping law that gives residents of the European Union more control over their personal data and seek to clarify rules and responsibility for online services with European users. It replaces the EU previous law governing data protection passed in 1995 and makes some dramatic changes to existing convention. Defining a standard of data protection is crucial to furthering the development of a regional and global digital economy. Importantly, it provides a basis for understanding the current state of data protection policies, offers an opportunity to design new frameworks that are consumer-friendly and applicable to local citizens, and hence are effective and sustainable. Essentially, countries with adequate data protection frameworks and hence the ability to transfer data internationally will have a distinct advantage in their ability to crowd in the investment and advance trade with large consumer markets. Why has the EU GDPR received so much attention? It significantly enhanced data privacy right to individuals, embodying a right to be forgotten. It significantly increased maximum penalty. Essentially, a company can get fined up to 20 million euros if found to be breach of data subject rights, and up to 10 million euro if has no governance and accountability in place. It considerably increased compliance burden on businesses. It expanded jurisdictional scope, meaning that its relevance is not confined to those businesses established in the EU. The GDPR makes protection of personally identifiable information, PII, compulsory. Does this law apply only to companies based in the European Union? The answer is no. And this is why it is major international news. The GDPR applies to any organization that collects, processes, manages, or stores the data of European citizens. This includes most major online services and businesses that collect, process, manage, and store data. Because of this, the GDPR essentially sets a new global standard for data protection. What kind of data does the GDPR protect? The regulation applies to a broad array of personal data, including person's name and government ID numbers. It also protects information that can show a person's activity both online and the real world. They include location information as well as IP addresses, cookies, and other data that lets companies track users as they browse the internet. Impact on our national data protection. To address the impact of the EU General Data Protection Regulation on national data protection, Nigeria must first build an evidence-based and a multi-stakeholder action base for personal data protection as one of the thematic areas of the regulation. Users' consent, a cornerstone for the GDPR. GDPR defines personal data as physical address, age, gender, location, health information, search queries, item purchase, etc. It also includes information routinely requested by website, including IP and email address, physical device information such as a computer MAC address, individual home address, date of birth, and online financial information, including transaction history, emergency contact, ethnicity, tax ID references. So, well, unfortunately, maybe y'all going to go. Let me go to the impact, what is going to happen to us. No African country is currently deemed compliant with GDPR. Estimated 14 billion US dollars of African digital economy export is at risk. The absence of existing data protection framework and the lack of supporting services present a significant challenge for most African countries. With no African country currently deemed to be compliant with the GDPR, the risk will disrupt the estimated 14 billion US dollars export from Africa digital economy to the EU. As the GDPR does not allow for partial compliance, countries will need to be deemed adequately compliant by the European Commission to protect their export industries. So, Nigeria must play a role to define standard of the GDPR in the region. Compliance with the GDPR is an opportunity for Nigeria to establish and strengthen strategic partnerships with the EU. Aligning on policy matters is often an important step towards fostering deeper relationship with large regional blocs, such as the EU. I don't know if we have time. These are the core indicators. These are the core indicators for Nigeria awareness. I put it into three categories, which is the individual rights, the principles, and then the accountability and governance. You know, below it you're going to see that human rights are right. We have virtue. We, by virtue of being humans and having the major characteristics of being universal, invisible, independent, and interrelated, the state has the primary responsibilities of respecting, protecting, and fulfilling their commitment of ensuring that the citizens do not have their right violated. That is why their data protection is a key for Nigeria and our Privacy Act. Fortunately, the Senate Committee on Cyber Security and Cyber and ICT created an expert group whereby made the sub-chair for these particular regulations to go through. So we will call on the stakeholders, and we're going to make this to be in compliance with the GDPR. That, like I said earlier, when I make a comment during the stuff that was going, that creating laws is not Nigerian problem, but regulating them is the biggest issue that we have. Core indicators for Nigeria Data Processing Bill. Measures regarding the provision of information, entering into or amending agreements with processors, assessing the legal basis for data processing, obtaining the consent of data subject where required, establishing internal procedures to safeguard the right of data subjects, right to obtain access information, right to have information rectified or erased, and right to object. Technical and organizational protection measures, documenting data processing activities, implementing the necessary procedures regarding data breaches, conducting data protection impact assessment, it should be a mandate. Then designating data protection officer or representative should be a mandate. Mandate for businesses to review their procedures and measures in relation to data processing, cross-border data flow. Nigeria must understand implication of the accountability principle for all businesses. Assessment of current data privacy practices, creation of a data privacy governance structure, personal data inventory, creating information notices and handling consent, data protection impact assessments, and reporting data breaches.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We appreciate that thorough research. And
yeah, you guys
Thank you very
will
much.
have if you need, you can have the paper later.
Thank you so much. He's available.